And welcome back to Cottage Talk. I'm Russ Goldman. Joining me right now is Max Cohen and Alec Coben. This is our post-match show of Fulham's dominating, and I mean dominant, 2-0 victory against Everton at Goodison Park. History was made to be broken, guys. They broke it. So we are going to talk about it. We did a full-time show where we really just gave our initial thoughts. We're going to dive deeper into this victory because I think there's a lot to get out of it. But before I do anything else, I want to welcome my co-host back to the show. Alec, it's been a while, so I'll introduce you first. How you doing? Are you looking forward to doing the show?
I'm very well, thank you, Russ. I'm in a very good mood, as I'm sure we all are. Thank you for having been back.
Well, it's great having you back. It's actually having you back with Max is actually just a great thing because I enjoy having the two of you. I'm the old fart in this, but I actually enjoy it. Max, welcome back to the show, and are you excited to do this? We've been waiting to do a show after a victory. It's been a couple months now, so are you excited, my friend?
Yeah, I'm delighted. I'm raring to go. I remember the last show where it was Alec and I. It was after the Chelsea match.
That's right.
And we had the whole half glass full, half glass empty conversation. I came out empty, but maybe it's just starting to turn the tide.
Wait a minute. Is it?
I don't know. Listen, I mean, Alec's points are coming true, so I love to see it. I'm glad to be proven wrong, and we got a first win since November.
That's right, and it's important. But again, as we were talking about in full time, let's not get too ahead of ourselves because there's a lot of work to be done. But this was an important step. Getting that victory was huge. So, Alec, I'm going to go to you first. I just want to get your just opening thoughts on this victory. Thoughts on how Fulham played, and you could even mention, what this could potentially mean for Fulham moving forward because they needed to get a victory, and history was broken, as I keep saying.
Well, Russ, I just think that it was a fantastic performance. I mean, we were solid at the back, we were dogged in the midfield, and we were lethally quick down the left-hand side. And
yes,
Everton was just simply no match for us yesterday. I mean, to go to Goodison Park, to dominate the game like that, to dominate possession, dominate the shots. We didn't give them a sniff. I think I counted one chance that they had.
What did Areola really have to do, Alec?
Yeah, it's a real relief not to have to name Areola man of the match this week.
It's a great point.
I must say. So I just think it was a fantastic performance. Really happy all round.
Okay, excellent. Max, over to you. It's funny because Emil and I talked about this. We felt it was coming. Now, you have, like I said, you're more glass half empty. Did you feel this was coming? Did you feel that a victory like this was coming? Maybe not against Everton, but did you feel that it was all leading up to a performance that matches actually a result? Because the performance was great, but we actually got the result.
Yeah, I think what they did yesterday was exactly what we've been calling for in this podcast for months. Russ, in terms of you're pleased to go for a 4 at the back. Right?
Yes.
We did that.
Yes.
I think everyone's, urges to get a goal scoring number 9 in. And I mean, it wasn't rocket science.
No.
It's the same thing that every single fan, I think, has recognized. We need someone who can score goals. Someone who has that striker's instinct. And Josh Maja, what a dream debut. And there it happens, but there it happens in the sense that he had the superb
right place
movement.
at the right time, Max.
Yeah, he made it easy for himself.
That's right.
So you can see them as easy goals, but I say that it's great movement, great intelligence in the box.
Yes.
And then we had that 4 at the back. We played more on the front foot, and we had the midfielders in Harrison Reed and Lamina. I'm going to single out Harrison Reed, as many people have.
Yes,
he was unbelievable to win the ball back in almost every single encounter, to press forward, to get the shots on goal. It was such a complete performance. He was excellent. But again, you have made it. The question seemed, has it been coming? I think in a way it has been, but it's almost like we needed the right ingredients. We needed that new striker in January, and we needed a more aggressive change of formation. And those two things happened Sunday, and I think that's why we won.
That's a great point, Max. And Alec, I'm glad that Max brought that up because the ingredients, they all needed to come together, but also the mentality had to be there. And I think that their mentality was slightly different. It was more aggressive. And again, was it the formation change? Was it the players out there? Was it a combination of all? But what's interesting about it was from the get-go, they were looking to go forward. You watch even in defense. We're going to talk about this because, again, Tosin and Anderson really, again, we could talk about them defensively, but they were always forward thinking. They were always looking for the pass. They were, again, it was looking forward. It was more aggressive. It was actually going for the win. I could feel the approach was a little bit different. It wasn't as safe as I'm accustomed to. Did you see any difference that I did? Because I saw a mentality difference.
I saw it too. I definitely saw it too, Russ. And I just think I would just want to give a big shout out to Scott Parker. I think he's really turned the team. He's really turned the team around. He's been patient when his critics have been very vocal. It can't have been easy to go for 5 at the back for so much of the season, but he really took the time to shore up the defense. He's built up that confidence now so that the defense feels like they don't need to have that extra man at the back. Now we can push one more guy forward, and we are much more lethal on the attack. We don't need to sit back so much, and we have a lot more. We have a lot more going forward on the wings, especially. I think he's really instilled a real defensive-minded mentality when we are on the back foot. But when we are going forward, we're very quick, and we know how to find the gaps now. And as Max just said, we were pretty dogged in the midfield. We were winning absolutely everything, and actually that sort of battle, since we won that allowed us to get even the second goal probably from Harrison Reed getting a little bit of space on the edge of the box, which he doesn't usually do.
That's right.
So I think it was a real change of mentality.
Look at his mentality change coming back from that West Brom match, and again, he has been more aggressive. And if you watch his interview on Fulham FC on FFC TV, he talks about he's been working on his shooting, and it's obvious that he has been. And Max, I want to go to you because, again, I think that we have to really talk about Parker and his tactics because, again, it's been passed down to the players. He had a formation that was working, that made us solid, but now it's taken it to another level where now we can be more aggressive and go for the win. I think that formation with 5 at the back made us solid and was more to play for the point and potentially a victory. Like I said, it was just to be more cagey and try to make a team make a mistake, and then maybe we would beat them on the counter. This formation, the way they're playing now, it's taking it to teams. It's being more forward-thinking. Would you agree with that? And shouldn't we give Parker some serious credit here for evolving as a manager during the season?
Yeah, 100%. And I think the other big tactical move was putting Aina at left back.
That's huge.
And now, I think that was a masterstroke because we've seen him play, on the right side of that back 3. And sometimes we've seen him play as the right wing back. But I've never seen him this season at left back. And that really raised eyebrows when I saw the team selection come out. I didn't know what the formation would be. But look at Aina. He was, the assist for Madrid's first goal. And he was a constant presence, along that left wing. In a sense that, Anthony Robinson, who's, I think, a fan favorite, I don't think he can have any complaints about, losing his spot in terms of the way Aina played, which was, again, a big gamble from Parker in that moment. And then, to have the confidence to start Madja, that's something that also needs to be applauded because he only just arrived, a couple weeks ago, and he's putting him right into starting 11 in his second full match. Most managers, might wait a couple matches to finally start the player. That was bravery. That showed he knew what needed to be done.
Yep.
And I really think the Harrison Reed point is a good thing to bring up because who's out of the squad? It's Anguissa. And Anguissa's a player who might have been the first name on the team sheet in the first half of the season. Maybe fans and Parker coming to realize his style of play might not be the best for the revival we need. He's very good at winning the ball back. He's decent at driving forward, but does he play the same quickness that Lamina and Reed play with? I don't think so, and I think that's another good tactical move.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, but it could also be against certain opponents, Max, because against this opponent, maybe that central midfield pairing of Reed and Lamina really worked, but maybe against someone else, Anguissa fits. So again, that's what's interesting here because you have a lot of pieces that you can mix and match, and I don't think that we have seen the end of Anthony Robinson, but it's going to be very hard for him to get back in after that performance against Aina, and I thought it worked very well. He worked very well with Adamola Lookman. We're going to talk about him because back and forth going with some fans and Emilio about the play of Adamola Lookman. So I'm going to get your thoughts, both of you, on how you felt he played because I can actually see both sides of the argument. Did he play well or did he not play well? Are we making, again, it's very interesting to look at it because Emilio was focusing a lot on the lack of finishing from Adamola Lookman, but he does offer something to as other fans have pointed out to me as well. So it's just an interesting discussion. That's what makes this show great, is that we can have different opinions. But guys, before we talk about the starting 11, the 18 overall, I always like to do this. I'll go to you first, Alec. Biggest takeaway from the match. The match is over. Fulham have won 2-0. It's the first thing that comes to your mind. First thing, biggest takeaway out of this match.
Winning the midfield battle is the most important thing in the game. If you win the midfield battle, not only do you create chances going forward, but you completely neuter any attack coming from the opposition. And that's what happened. It wasn't just the fact that we dominated on the attack. It's just that Everton didn't even have a sniff. We dominated possession, dominated shots. They didn't have a chance. So that would be my biggest takeaway from the match. But I have amongst many others, because there were, as you mentioned, there were many pieces that we put together perfectly yesterday.
The puzzle came together perfectly.
Yeah.
How about you, Max?
Yeah, my biggest takeaway was I'm so interested to see what a win does to this team, because, as you mentioned, we've been crying out for one for months, literally months.
Yeah. And
I think a lot of fans have a sneaking suspicion that just one win could, open the floodgates. And with the 3 matches ahead of us, Palace, Sheffield United, Burnley, there are opportunities to pick up 3 points in
absolutely,
I'd say all those matches. And it just had to be one game to show the squad that we had what it takes to get the 3 points. Because I really do think a lot of it is mental, And after the West Ham match,
I totally agree,
so long, we're not getting there. There was probably a mental block in many of these players' minds, thinking we're playing so well, we're just unlucky. Now I think we got a lot of luck in this match against Everton. In a way we haven't got all season, which is good. I'm not saying we got lucky, but things went our way for the first time. I think the players can now push on, play with confidence. And, of course, as people are saying in the comments, be cautious about the excitement. We're still 7 points clear safety in this moment in time. But no one expected us to win against Everton. Even in the most optimistic scenario.
I predicted 2-1.
Russ, you picked them in almost every match, okay? Just okay, but yeah,
well,
very, very few people.
Very true.
When I came on the show, we saw we might get match wins against Burnley, Sheffield United, Palace, West Brom. But no one saw a win. Very few people saw a win away at Everton, a team challenging for top 4. So now this opens up possibilities. Could we get more than we thought? Still a lot of football to be played, and it's just nice to have something to go off a springboard, if you will.
Okay, well, I do have that positive feeling about me, but that's kind of constant, so I get what you're saying on that, Max. Very good by you to point that out. Okay, before we really break down the match, which I really want to get into, I want to talk about the starting 11 and the 18 overall. We also have to talk about the Mitro situation. I've had fans reach out to me saying, you guys have to talk about Mitro, the COVID situation, and what do we do with Mitro moving forward? But let's start with the starting 11, the 18 overall. Okay, over to you, Alec. Your thoughts when you saw it an hour before the match?
I honestly was not very sure. So that's why I give even more credit to Scott Parker, because I'm not sure this was, the starting 11 people really expected to be super successful on the night. Putting Josh Maja in, I think that was quite a risky move when we have other more experienced strikers, more experience with the club. But he really did perform, and credit to Scott Parker for taking the chance on him. Like we mentioned about Robinson. Robinson's not a bad player. He's had a decent season. He's pretty good going forward. But Aina really gave us some good, really good attacking presence on the left-hand side whilst maintaining that kind of assurance at the back. So I was very impressed with the starting 11 in general. I thought, we took out some players that haven't necessarily been bad this season.
You're right.
That haven't been necessarily bad this season, but at the same time, we really pulled it off. So I was pretty happy with that starting. I was pretty happy with that starting 11 after seeing the result, not after, not 30 minutes before the game.
Well, let me ask you, what did you think the formation was going to look like at that time?
Well, I thought we were going to play 5 at the back. When you go away to a European contender, you usually go for a more conservative approach.
He didn't do that,
and I thought, if we put 5 at the back against Brighton, then why would we not put 5 at the back against away at Everton? So I thought that was quite a brave move. But I think it also showed that Scott Parker has finally gone to the point where he can trust his defense not to hemorrhage 3 goals a game if we don't have 3 centre backs, and that's allowed us to push forward. and we completely overloaded that left. We allowed us to completely overload the wings, especially on the left hand side. Seamus Coleman was completely overrun. And not only that, because we managed to overload that left wing, it gave us a lot of space in the middle to create even more opportunities, and actually ultimately gave Harrison Reed the space to get that shot off for the second goal. So
that's a great point.
So ultimately, I think it was a very smart move, just not just with the formation, but also with the player selection as well.
I think both are key because again, it was really you can have the right players out there, but you have to have the right formation that fits all these players, and it has to work together. It all worked perfectly, Max. So I want to get your thoughts when you saw the starting 11, and then your thoughts on what you thought the formation was going to be, because Alec thought it was still going to be 5 at the back.
Yeah, when you see Decadova Reed in there, you have no idea where he's going to play an hour before the match because he can play anywhere. So I think it ended up he's probably played closer up to the forward line or even on the right wing, which I think is a better position for him rather than – because I thought it might have actually been left wing back because we've seen Aina play on the right center back, Tete right wing back, and then Decadova Reed left wing back, which is not his most effective position, in my opinion. So it was nice to see him play further forward. I do want to talk about Mitrovic, though, because –
let's talk about it.
And again, this is probably 3 or 4 times this season I've said this. We played the best I've seen us play all season, and Mitrovic played no role. The other time was a Leicester City match, and then I'd say probably the Liverpool match. We don't miss him. And that's how I see it, is that I haven't seen anything from Mitrovic in the last couple months that shows he can deserve a starting spot in this team. I think he can be a very useful substitute, 20 minutes to go, 25 minutes to go. But if we have a player like Madrid who's in the form that he's in, 2 goals on his full debut, I don't see a role for Mitrovic. And that's not very sentimental, but I think that's the truth. Obviously, it's odd, though, that the club announced it COVID-19. In my recollection, it's the first time since the pandemic began, almost a year ago, that the club's ever released a player tested positive. Even over in July, June area, they mentioned some people had it, never confirmed it. And of course, in the most recent outbreak, never confirmed any names. So I was curious what you guys thought about that they actually went out and named Mitrovic. Do you think he requested that? It just seemed kind of odd.
It's very interesting because, again, I'm glad that we're talking about Mitro. That's a good transition because I really wanted to talk about this. And they haven't done that. Why did they go ahead? That's a great point. Why did they go ahead and let us know if they haven't let us know about anyone else? I don't know. Was it from his request? I have no idea. That's a great point. Over to you, Alec. I want to get your thoughts about the Mitro situation and also what Max just brought up, because Fulham have not done that at all. They actually announced that Mitro had COVID.
I think the club are trying to play down his absence from the formation. It's not just that he's a high profile player who's missing from the starting lineup. He's also a player who really wears his attitude on his sleeve. Quite honestly, he is very expressive with his emotions. And I think quite frankly, we just didn't want to upset or cause any sort of ruse in the media about this. I think it is a big deal that Mitrovic isn't starting, and I think it's very clear that he just does not fit in the side right now. I mean, yeah. I think about the closest example I can think to this is Portugal when they won the European Championship. And in the final, they played their best in the final, and they played without Cristiano Ronaldo, and you wouldn't think that Portugal would play brilliantly without Cristiano Ronaldo, and you wouldn't think that Fulham would play brilliantly without Mitrovic, but there you have it. I also think that Mitrovic is one of those players he's one of those players who can create something out of nothing, and we don't have nothing. We're not one of those Route 1 teams. We like to get the ball on the ground. We like to pass it out the back. Anderson is as good on the ball as Harrison Reed, quite honestly. And I think when we're passing it out the back and not going that Route 1 formation, we don't need the big man up front to do the little flick-ons and the little glancing headers to those running on behind the back line. We don't need any of that. I think as Max said, I think maybe he would be useful to keep around as one of those players that we can throw in the last 20 minutes just to shut the game down, just to hold the ball in the corner or just make a muck in the box and just cause a rabble with the defense. At the same time, we could get probably a fair bit of money for him. I think it might be time for him to for him to move on, quite honestly. He just does not fit our style of play, and I just don't see that clear-cut of a role or that much of a reason to keep him around. But
well, what's interesting, and again, it's only been 2 matches, one starting from Josh Maja, but you could see how he fits into this puzzle. You could see it now. Again, will he be able to do this each and every match? Only time is going to tell. But you could see it. With Mitro, it's hard to see how it all works. Now, Mitro can hold up the ball, but so can Josh Maja. Maja can really get into the box, and it just has this knack. And again, it's very early on, but you could see that he is a poacher. You can see it. You can see it.
I think we've got to be careful with Josh Maja. I mean, no doubt he got himself into brilliant positions for the goal, but they were tap-ins. Is he going to be able to keep us cool? Is he going to be able to keep us cool when he's 1-on-1 in the 85th minute and it's a real live or die situation like we have come up against this season? Is he going to keep us cool there? Is he not going to bottle it? That's what it's really going to come down to. There's one thing being in the right place at the right time. It's another thing completely to have pressure bearing down upon you and to still stick it in the back of the net when it's not that easy of a chance, which Mitrovic did so well in the championship.
That's right.
He has yet to prove himself in that sense, but it's just early days. And full credit to the guy for a fantastic performance. However, he does still have something to prove. I think before we can confidently say that he is fully beyond filled Mitrovic's shoes.
Totally agree, Alec. But again, this goes to your argument, or to the argument we're making that Mitro should be part of the squad. He needs to be part of it because there might be those moments where you need someone like that. And I'll even say, and I know fans will roll their eyes, Cavallero, because I think Cavallero has a role too. I know how people feel about him, but his work rate is very good. He, again, can't finish to save his life, but, and I shouldn't have put it, you know what I mean. I don't mean that literally, but, he just can't, he just can't finish, and that's an issue. But I think he has a role too. And as you can see, if you watch the video with Scott Parker, he mentions Mitro. He also mentions Cavallero. So over to you, Max. This is the argument why I still think that there's a role for Mitro, and it could be starting in certain matches. But as Alec just said, early days on Josh Maja, it's encouraging, but we still have other options, and Mitro could be one, and I'm going to say it, Cavallero could be as well.
Yeah, I think everyone can agree they all deserve to be involved in the squad, but if it's a question of who's starting in that kind of 4-2-3-1 formation, who's going to be the lone striker, it has to be Maja, just based on what? He has 2 goals in 1 start. That's as many league goals that Mitro has all season. And it all came that one match against Leeds in September? Yeah. It's ridiculous. And Cavallero has 3 goals all season and 2 from open play. So when you have someone does what all the other strikers have done essentially over the course of 20 matches, do it in 1 start, that's a really great first impression. I do see what Alec is saying for sure about it. It's a small sample size. And, even I was saying this after the first half when I was pretty frustrated at the 0-0. We're knocking on the door, didn't get any finishing touches. I kind of said, look, this is kind of the same that's been all season. I haven't really seen much from Maja where we look like we have no cutting edge. Of course, that changed very quickly. But I think what we can say is that our number 9s in the system, our strikers, don't really have a say in the build-up play. Because I think the build-up play largely, they don't really have a massive effect on it. What they do have effect on, can they turn their chances into goals? And that's why I think Maja has to be the guy, because he's shown a great ability to do that in a very short span of time.
Okay, he also showed the ability to hold up the ball, which I think is important too. He did do that in this match too, Max. So I think it's a little bit more than that.
That's fair, but that's not his main role. His main role is to score goals. And honestly,
his main role is to score.
I would be happy just to tap-ins, because that shows he's getting into the 6-yard box and we're getting crosses. And when I've seen Mitro play this season, he's not been doing that. I mentioned this in the past show. He seems to be timid, waiting on the edge of the 18-yard box, not getting into the positions he was getting in the championship. So that's why I like Maja. He has that sense to pull off the defender, get to the back post, which we haven't seen movement like that thus far.
Okay, I'm going to share this comment from Chris Davidson. Mitro is our striker on the bench for the moment, but he's still important if we need to change the game. I agree with Chris on this right now. This is what I think is going to be what his role is going to be. I could still see him starting against certain opponents, but if things go well with Josh Maja, if Parker wants to stick with the way that we played against Everton, then it's Maja. it's Marja. That's the way I look at it. Alec, your thoughts on what Chris just shared? He kind of agrees with what we're talking about here.
Yeah, I feel I'll say one thing right now, and then in 2 weeks I'll say a completely different thing if Mitro either really surprises me for good, or really disappoints me. I think there have been times he has come on and he has changed the game, but there have been times he's come on and been completely useless as well, and he just throws a sulk. I mean, I feel Mitro's game is defined by his first 5 minutes on the pitch. If it goes well for him, if he gets a couple of decisions his way, if he wins a free kick here and there, he's on fire. But when a couple of things goes against him, he'll end up elbowing someone and getting sent off and getting suspended for 5 games. I mean, the guy is very erratic, and I think that sort of attitude can fly in the championship, where the referees are a little bit more lenient. The defenders can be bullied a little bit more. But in the Premiership, when you have a little bit more class and when you need a little bit more finesse, not just and a little bit more of a can-do attitude, I think he is a little bit out of his depth. I think, yes, we should hold on to him for now. However, I think we should be very open to the possibility of letting him go in the summer. Just going back to Majida, I think he really combines the two strengths of Cavallero and Mitrovic. Cavallero gets himself into good positions. He's got fantastic work rate, whereas Mitrovic is a good finisher, but he can't get himself in the positions, and he's a bit lazy, in my opinion. Whereas Maja has a good balance of the two. Like you mentioned, he can hold up the ball well, he can get it, and we saw he can get into great positions, and he can obviously finish quite well. So I'm confident that we've got some good options, moving forward with the rest of the season. But I think for now, let's hold on to. I definitely agree that we should hold on to Mitro, but we should be open to the possibility that his days with Fulham might be over.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, coming up next, we're going to break down this match. We'll look at both halves, and we will end with man of the match. Okay, guys, let's get to it. Let's talk about the first half, and I want you guys to analyze the first half. And I'm just going to put up this. I actually put this up full time because Fulham were dominant in the first half, but had nothing to show for it. You have I shouldn't say plenty of opportunities, but you had some decent opportunities. You had an opportunity from Maja in the 8th minute. You had a shot by Reed in the 20th minute. Lookman's shot just goes wide in the 26th minute. And then in the 41st minute, you had an opportunity from Lookman. But let's just start here. Over to you, Max. I want your analysis of the first half, because for all of the dominant play, they had nothing to show for it. I was actually worried at halftime, and I'll ask you guys, what were your thoughts at halftime? Because I felt like I've seen this movie before. So let's talk about the first half, because there were some good moments, but there were also some concerning moments, the lack of finishing again. Yeah,
it was the same old story. I felt that the team played with almost a free rein in that first half. You could sense they went out there knowing that the season would be over if they didn't change it around quickly. And it just seemed like there was more impetus, more urgency. Harrison Reed, as we've talked about a bunch, I think he embodied that in the way that he'd move the ball quickly, and just as soon as we just kept Everton pinned in their own half, I think for vast majorities of that first half, which is so impressive to me. And I keep saying, wow, we're playing superb. But as you mentioned, there's no end product. We did go very close, though. I think Deckard over Reed, that flick on off the post, and then Ida just mishits it, and then Anderson hits over. We were knocking on the door. There are high-quality chances there. But yeah, the frustration did kick in, and we definitely got a sense of how dangerous Everton could be when Coleman hit the post.
That's right.
And when that shot was going
in the 33rd minute.
Yeah. I just thought, oh no, is this going to be a very cruel lesson about the Premier League again for us? And that's why I think the fortune kind of fell in our favor. I could have seen a match, a couple weeks ago, or maybe even, a year ago, 2018-19, where that goes in and we lose 2-0 or something just because we just got hit in the break and we weren't clinical. But luckily, the second half, we turned up the switch.
Okay, very good. All right. Alec, over to you. I want to get your analysis of the first half. And like I'm saying here, it was dominant, but I also want to get your thoughts about this, because we are going to talk about what I think led to the 2 goals in the second half, because, again, Fulham outworked Everton basically, I kept hearing this, they had more energy. It was more than that. They worked hard, but again, they had a game plan and they saw it through. They pressed Everton, and Everton could not, as you already said, it didn't have a sniff, but this pressing was creating so many problems for Everton, and I think we saw the results of that in the second half. We're focusing on the first half, but I think what we saw in the first half actually helped them in the second half. Your thoughts?
I definitely think so. I think it was the same story pretty much both half. I just think in the second half we got 2 goals. I was very worried watching that first half that this would be Groundhog Day, that we would dominate the game and have nothing to show for it. And as Max said, I mean, Everton did come close that one time, and you know, if that had gone in, it could have just been a Chelsea or a Liverpool situation when we drop points when we have fully deserved to have all 3 of them. But credit to the team for just digging in deep, not giving up. And I think it really did inspire a real hard second half performance. You would have thought that Everton would really shake things up, though, after that first half. I mean, we haven't really talked about that much about them. We've talked about how great Fulham have been, but Everton were poor. Everton really did not change anything up. I mean, they really needed to pull Seamus Coleman out earlier.
That's on Ancelotti, by the way. That's on Carlo Ancelotti, because I was expecting something at halftime. Just like what happened in the West Brom match when Sam Allardyce, of all people, changed things at halftime. I expected Ancelotti to do something on that level. He did not. He absolutely did not, and that actually shocked me.
It was quite surprising. He just seemed slow to react, and I think it's that sort of that.
Do you think it's arrogance?
It was a European arrogance. I thought.
Because
I think it was arrogance on the part of Everton. They look at us, you know. Well, we were on 15 points, 18th in the table, but we're not a relegation side. You watch us play, even in our last 6 games that we've drawn or lost, we're not a relegation side. We pass the ball around. We don't hoof the ball up and have some sort of haphazard Hail Mary Route 1 tactics to score goals. We actually try to get the ball down and pass it. It's like if Barcelona were in the relegation zone, quite honestly. And at the end of the day, I just think Everton really underestimated us in both halves. They thought we pressed them so hard in the first half we would tire out. We did not tire out. They thought we didn't get the goals in the first half, that they would snatch one and then be able to park the bus. That didn't happen. We didn't even give them another chance after the first half. We kept the defense secure. We kept our heads. We usually concede a lot of late goals as well, and that didn't happen today. That didn't happen yesterday either. So I think it was a combination of the fact that we were just relentless with our inspired play. Yeah. And Everton just were arrogant and didn't want to change a non-functioning system.
I think that's a great point. Over to you, Max, because I was thinking about that before even Alec mentioned that, and the word arrogance came out. I actually think that they showed up and they just thought they were going to win this match. I'm talking about the players. I'm talking about Ancelotti and everything. I just think that I think Fulham wanted it more. And I think that they took this match for granted a little bit. They didn't take Fulham seriously enough. I do think that there was arrogance with Everton in this match. Your thoughts? Yeah.
I mean, let's take a step back and look at, Everton challenging for Europe. West Ham United, who we drew 0-0, but perhaps should have won. Challenging for Europe. Liverpool, we got points off them. Chelsea, we should have got points off them. This is such a different story than 2018-19, when we were absolutely outclassed in probably 80% of our matches. Yep. Here, we're looking at teams in the top 5, top 6, and we're outclassing them. That just goes to show, I think, what a great job Parker has done, and what an odd situation we find ourselves in. The fact that we're still 7 points clear of safety, but outclassing teams who are pushing for Champions League qualification. Yeah. It's madness in some ways, and I think we did benefit, to be fair, from Everton. Missing Dominic Calvert-Lewin, playing 120 minutes in the Cup in midweek. These are both factors that definitely made it easier for us. That's no excuse, though. They have a great squad. I mean, they have a superb team. And I'm
sorry, Max. Did Richarlison play? Did he play? No,
completely pocketed by Teta. I mean, Gylfi Sigurdsson's one of the great creative midfielder. I can't remember a thing he did. I mean, James Rodriguez.
How about James Rodriguez? Did he play? Well,
he was terrible.
He got injured. So.
Yeah, we just completely bossed him, and I think Alec hit the nail on the head. We wanted it more than they did. They strolled in expecting an easy afternoon.
Alec's 100% right.
Yeah, we wanted it more. Their party. Yeah.
Okay, guys, let's now transition. Before we talk about the second half, I want to get your thoughts at halftime, okay? Because we kind of already mentioned this, but I already talked about it at halftime. I'm thinking, I've seen this movie before. I tweeted this out. I was concerned, really concerned at halftime. What's interesting, and I'll share this, Max, I don't know if you saw this at halftime with the broadcast from Peacock from NBC Sports, but Danny Higginbotham he was very impressed with Fulham. And he said this at halftime. He didn't say this after the match. They talked a little bit about it after the match, but he said if Fulham basically had a striker, a goal scorer, they'd be mid-table. He basically said that he thought that they had pretty much everything else. I'm paraphrasing. He said that at halftime because he thought Fulham played that well. But here's the thing. We've seen the movie before. What was going through your mind? Alec already said that he was feeling like me. Were you thinking, this isn't good. We haven't taken advantage of our opportunities?
Yeah, I kept thinking that, the phase of the game will switch, which is something the commentators kept saying during the West Brom match, in the sense that, Fulham are on top now, but it can't happen the entire match. It will switch. And I was thinking the same thing, that we're not going to enjoy this level of dominance for the entire 90 minutes. When are Everton really going to step it up?
Right.
And to our great credit, we're the ones who stepped on the gas
That's
for the
right.
first half an hour of the second half. We did park the bus for the final 15 minutes, but by that time we were already well clear. And I think that's great game management by Parker.
Okay, very good. All right, let's now move to the second half. And Alec, I'm going to give you the honors. 3 minutes in to the second half, you have the great play, and I'll say great play of Adam Lookman and, of course, Aina setting up Josh Maja on a plate. But again, that was a poacher's goal. Your thoughts on the opening goal from Josh Maja early in the second half?
Well, we keep on talking about the main themes of the game. Doggedness in the midfield and then pace down the left hand side. Well, this was all about the pace down the left hand side. Great give and go between Aina and Lookman, and finding Maja in the box. I mean, it was 20 seconds from the halfway line to the back of the net, and we were just lethal, absolutely lethal. I don't have another way to put it. We were just so quick, just getting down that left hand side. And Maja, I was great credit to him. He anticipated what was going to happen, and he just found himself there completely unmarked in the 6-yard box. It was like he saw the play that no one else saw it about 15 seconds before anyone else even conceived of it. So great credit to him. Fantastic goal. Fantastic team goal. Probably one of the best goals we've scored this season, actually.
Yeah.
So I was very, very happy with that goal.
Okay. And Fulham go up 1-0. And what's interesting, guys, is that they didn't sit back and play for that 1-0 win. That Fulham didn't do that. They continued to play the way that they played the entire game, and that's also very encouraging. They actually created an opportunity in the 56th minute, but it just didn't come off for Josh Maja. There was an opportunity, but it just didn't come off. And then what's interesting, right after that, you have Carlo Ancelotti making the double substitution, and Josh King, the other Josh, comes on. And then you have King coming on. And what's interesting about this, and this is a key moment, Max, because I think this can get lost. Josh King has a great opportunity, a great run. Who's with him all the way, but it's Kenny Tete, and gets the ball off of him. That could have easily gone against Fulham. That was good defense from Kenny Tete. And shortly after that, you have the situation that leads to the second goal from Josh Maja. And again, there's a change here because from Harrison Reed, like I said, he is now taking more initiative going forward. He's not just a defensive midfielder. He is looking forward. He's also looking for his own shot, which is great. So he has a great shot off the post, and there you are for the second goal. Let's talk about the second goal from Josh Maja, which again, we're Fulham fans. Was the match over at that point? Probably not, but it was much more comfortable at this point.
Yeah, and credit to Harrison Reed because he gets himself into great positions, outside of the 18-yard box.
That's right.
And I think a lot of fans urge him to shoot, and he doesn't most of the time. But we saw 2 strikes this match. First one in the first half just went wide.
That's right.
But this one is perfect. I mean, it was hit so well. And that's what I want to see more of from defensive midfielders and, non-strikers. Because
why not?
We need goals from other players. I think that's going to be the main
That's a great point.
Of the next 15 matches is that Josh Maja, I think, will chip in a good amount of goals.
But we need it from other sources. I agree.
He can't do it alone. I think we can talk about Lookman later on and where those goals are going to come from, but it can't all be the number 9. So it was great to see Harrison Reed try his luck. And the anticipation is superb from Maja. That isn't easy to do. A lot of players are ball watching that situation. the Everton defense was, honestly. And Maja took the opportunity, gambled, just like he did for the first goal. And it was kind of the flip side of what happened in the first half when, Decadova-Reed's flick on hit the post. Everyone just kind of stood still. If Aina had been following that up instead of kind of waiting on his heels, we might go 1-0 up in the first half. And it's just that striker's instinct again. Kind of the intangibles. You can't really teach it. You learn it or from a young age. You're just born with it to know where that ball is going to be, to anticipate the rebound and to always take a chance. And that's just what's been missing the entire season. And that's why we're so lucky to have Magic with us now.
It's crazy. Maybe we got the right Josh. I hate to say it, maybe we ended up getting the right Josh. And Josh King, tried to make an impact for Everton. It's funny, they were talking about that at halftime. They're like, okay, well, Fulham tried to get Josh King, and they were saying that Everton should bring him on at halftime. And Carlo Ancelotti waited until I wrote down the 56th minute. That's when he made that double substitution, because at that point, Fulham were really just on top, and he needed to find a way to change the game. And this goes back to what Alex said earlier. I think this has a little to do with arrogance, because he thought that they would eventually work it out, and it wasn't working. So then he said, okay, fine. Now I have to make the change. But the change probably was too late. It was too late. And then, of course, Fulham scored the second goal, and it's 2-0. But I want to go to you, Alec, because a lot of fans have pointed to this, because I talked about how it was a dominant performance, but they talk about this. Let's end our discussion talking about the final 10 minutes of the match. How nervous were you? Now, again, this is Fulham. We're thinking about Fulham. We are, and again, myself as well. I was biting my fingernails. I was all nervous, just like everyone else. How do you think we handled? I'm talking about the players. I'm talking about Fulham. The last 10 minutes. It was nervy times, but they were still up 2-0.
I actually was going into those last 10 minutes. I was pretty confident. I just thought that we had been solid all game, and I didn't see the tide of the game turning at all. It just didn't look like it would turn at all. They offered no threat. They offered no threat on the ground, no threat in the air, and we had the game under control. Ordinarily, I would have said ordinarily against maybe a side that showed a bit more promise, maybe like Liverpool or Chelsea. I would have been a little bit more worried, but I was not actually worried going into those last 10 minutes at all. Credit to the players, and I also think that although we sat back a little bit, we didn't completely take our foot off the gas. We were not just 9 men behind the ball, 9 men in the penalty box, just hoofing the ball away. We were still trying to run the ball up the pitch, and that's where I think we can really see a level of composure that we didn't see at the start of the season. It wasn't a panic. It wasn't a panic last 10 minutes. It was calm. We were cool as a cucumber.
Confident too.
And you could just see that the players exuded that attitude on the pitch. And I think when the players show that attitude, they internalize it as well, and they just know that they're not going to just give up the game. They're not going to just hemorrhage 4 goals at the last minute. And I was actually very impressed with how we closed out the game, and Everton didn't really have that much in the last 10 minutes.
Okay. Max, your view of the last 10 minutes, how were you feeling? Were you as confident as Alec? Again, I was confident, but I've seen the other side of all these matches, and I'm thinking, okay, can they actually see this out? And they did. They absolutely did. And I think the players played with, like Alex said, a calmness, and I'll say a confidence.
Yeah, I wasn't quite as assured of the result, just because I had flashbacks to the Leicester City match when we were up 2-0 away from home, and then that one goal from Harvey Barnes.
Harvey Barnes scores.
Totally changed the story.
Oh boy, yeah.
And I really believe in the kind of last couple minutes of football match. There'll always be the one more chance doctrine. I strongly believe in that. There'll always be a chance of a fall to a player. So I just fear that it would get cut down to 1 goal, and then there'd be that chance for Everton, and they might take it. Which is actually what we saw them do at Old Trafford in their last league match. Draw at the death. So I was definitely nervous. And they did have a goal ruled off for offside.
They did. That. By Josh King. They did.
That was Josh King, yeah. So we weren't totally smooth sailing. And I do think we were playing a little bit of just kind of hoof it. We kind of gave up on attacking once kind of Cavallera came in my opinion. But hey, we saw it through. It doesn't really matter. We got the 2-0. And it's a clean sheet away from home. And it was very professionally, closed at the end. And that's all you can ask for.
Okay, excellent. Great stuff, guys. All right, we're going to end the show. with really talking about man of the match, but we're going to go a little bit beyond that because I want to talk about some of the individual performances because I think it goes beyond just man of the match. But let's just start here. Let's start with talking about who was your man of the match. Alec, I'll go to you. Who was your man of the match?
I think we have to. I think I have to go with Harrison Reed. Just the intensity that he showed, he really dominated that central midfield battle. I think there were a lot of special mentions in there, including Lookman, it was mentioned that we didn't know if he played well. I actually think Lookman played very well, and you could see that from just his involvement in both of the goals.
Yep.
I thought Aina also had a great match. I thought obviously Maja had a great match as well. So I think a lot of special mentions from the match, but I think ultimately Harrison Reed has to clinch it. And watching the match of the day last night, the pundits seem to agree with that.
Yeah, I think it's going to be hard not to say Harrison Reed. As I said in full time, he ran the show, Max. He completely ran the show, and that to me is so encouraging because as we talk about, and I'm glad that Alec brought this up from the get-go, this match was won in central midfield. And Harrison Reed and, of course, Lamina had a big part of that, but I think it really, really has to go more for man of the match to Harrison Reed. Your thoughts?
Yeah, I agree. And it's weird that everyone is so convinced it's Harrison Reed, which I do agree with as well. When the debut starter got 2 goals and he's not man of the match, that shows you how well Harrison Reed played.
That's right.
I also want to give a shout out to Tosin, who I thought was just
I'm glad that you mentioned
completely flawless. The way he just cuts out passes and just seems to intercept it and just know the ball is going to be so assured. And also, Anderson, his switches of play were just magnificent.
That's why I wanted to mention other performances, Max. You're bringing it up because this is why I want to talk about that.
And that's how you know it really was a great performance because you could literally make a case for anyone, man of the match. We haven't really talked about Lamina that much. I thought Lamina was superb. So many people just stepped up. Tete also was excellent, as you mentioned. So that's why I'm really pleased. It was not just a one-man show. No. You look at the scoreline, you might just think, oh, Magic just got 2 goals. But no, every single player, I think, put in a real shift. Totally
agree. But I'm glad that you brought this up, and I want to get Alex's thought on talking about Tosin and Anderson because – glad that we're talking about because both of their passing was, I thought, great. Like I said, I love Anderson's passing, but it was Tosin as well. But this is the part that I want to talk about because, Alec, you mentioned talking about how we won it in central midfield. But you know what? Having the confidence, and we'll start at Areola, having that guy back there, and then you have these 2 center backs that I think are showing confidence. It flows forward. Am I wrong to look at these guys? Because, again, we're focusing on Harrison Reed as man of the match, and of course, everyone else moving forward. But I think you have to look back too, because I think it starts with Areola. Absolutely starts there, and he had nothing to do except for, like I said, he had very little. I shouldn't say nothing. He had very little to do, but his confidence. But the 2 center backs, you watch Anderson. He looks confident. He looks so confident. It's so different than, say, the beginning of the season. It shows the difference that he and Tosin have brought us.
For sure. And I think that whilst we've been, romanticizing the midfield battle, we have to also recognize that Harrison Reed is only able to win the midfield battle if he can actually cover the space that exists between the offensive line and the defensive line. So we have to give real confidence. We have to give real credit to Anderson and Tosin, because not only did they play with confidence, but they played with confidence with quite a high line as well. They had to shut down that space between the offensive line and the defensive line, because otherwise Harrison Reed wouldn't have been able to dominate like he did. He can only cover so much space. He's only one man. And so we have to give great credit to the defense for their positioning and their confidence throughout the game in that respect. And also just the fact that we could actually start every play from the back. It doesn't have to be. An attack doesn't have to start from a bouncing loose ball in the middle of the park. That just kind of causes the whole play to run amok. It wasn't luck. It was careful, considered play right from the get-go. So I think both were in helping us just maintain our strategic positioning, as well as even with our actual plays. I think they were actually absolutely crucial. And full credit to Areola, because I'm sure he did play a role in actually pushing them up there and making sure that they held their position and didn't drop too deep. it can be quite scary for a defensive for a defense like that to play a high line. And we did nearly get caught out. Tete had to was super fast in making that challenge when Everton had that chance. So, we do run a risk there, but at the same time, full credit to the back two for maintaining that high line through thick and thin, really.
Yeah, I totally agree with that, Alec. That's why I wanted to talk about them. But it's funny because while we're doing this, I'm also thinking about a former match and an opponent coming up, and we have a huge match against Burnley. So, Max, I'm going to take this to talk about, because, again, I'm talking about the confidence of those two back there, right? I look at that Brighton match, and we really controlled the first, say, 15, 20 minutes, and then they pressed us. And then Tosin, who looked so confident, looked nervous. They started to look nervous. Why aren't more teams pressing us? Everton didn't, they really didn't press us, Max. And I think that's something, when we look towards Burnley and we look towards some of these other opponents coming up, if I'm them, I might try to press us. And again, I'm not trying to be negative here because I'm a positive person. I'm just trying to be realistic because I would love to see us play like this every match. But I think they're going to be teams that are going to we're going to press Fulham. Yeah.
I think one simple explanation is that we've barely scored any goals this season, so teams don't really fear us in an attacking sense. And why press a team who won't break you down anyway? So hopefully,
glass half empty as always, man.
I don't know. Maybe that will change once people see what we did.
There's Max.
If there's Mad Max. Premier League defense, why would I press Fulham? We're with the second lowest scoring team in the league. So
okay. Over to you, Alec. Your thoughts on that? Because, again, it seems like a way to really put us under a little pressure, because I was feeling good about the opening stages of that Brighton match. And I'm just thinking about opponents coming up. And then they started to get in our faces, and it really affected Fulham.
We're not that physical of a side, I feel. And when teams rough us up a bit, it does rattle us a little bit. Yeah. And that's why I don't go into these games against these relegation sides like Burnley and Newcastle. I don't go into these games with a huge amount of confidence. I actually go into the games with Liverpool and Chelsea with a little bit more confidence because
they'll let us play.
Because they let us play, and they don't want to get their key players suspended. Whereas Burnley and Brighton, they just try to roughhouse us, and that really disrupts our flow. When you're a team that plays with the ball on the ground, you don't want players snapping at your ankles or pushing you off the ball. So I think there's still a lot to play for. I'm seeing the comments. I'm seeing that Newcastle lost, so they
did. I actually have it on as we're doing the show.
Oh well, you do. Okay, well that's the first I'm hearing of the news. So that's great news. Hopefully, Newcastle continue to capitulate, because they have really slipped down the table in these last few games, whereas Burnley and Brighton have sort of run away with it a little bit. So I think in these next few games, I think these are definitely games that we can pick up at least some points from, and especially against Newcastle. I think Newcastle's the last game of the season.
Newcastle's the last match of the season.
That's going to be a big. That's going to be a big game. Still a long way to go. We're still 7 points behind, but with all of those 6 pointers coming up, we can easily close that gap. I have no worries about that.
Okay. Max, what are your thoughts about this? And I want to share this comment. Burnley will be a different battle for Fulham, a physical matchup. We're just talking about that. How does Fulham match up against a team like Burnley? It'll be completely different.
Yeah, and Burnley just won 3-0 at Selhurst Park. So, they're definitely on good form as well. I've seen a lot of chatter that they're going to be missing Ben Mee through injury protocol, which will be a boost for us. But that'll be a tough battle. I think it's tough because we need to win. And I don't think we've ever won in the league at Turf Moor, in the Premier League at least. It's some kind of crazy record. But as you mentioned, we can break that record just like we broke.
Just like we did at Goodison Park.
One thing I'd say about survival in Newcastle, just on that topic, I think if we play and finish like the way we did against Everton, I think we can get up to 38 points, around about 38 to 40 points. Now, that's still a lot to do. But I think almost the more difficult thing is hoping Newcastle only gets 12 or 13 points from the remaining 15 matches.
Well, that's the issue that you have. You're playing catch up. That's the issue, and you have a team that doesn't need to win as much as you do. So you're hoping that a team really goes on a losing streak for you to survive. You are depending on someone else besides yourself, and that's not a place you want to be.
Yeah.
So I understand. I understand why Mike really focuses on the numbers, and this is where the numbers play a factor.
Yeah. So
we
need
20 points. We need 20 points. I feel, regardless. 38. If we can get to 38 points, we need 4 wins and then a few draws, and that should be good enough. But I don't think we can rely on the other teams to drop points. When you're in the relegation battle, one win here and there for another team can really offset all of the games before that, all of the poor form before that. I mean, look at us. I mean, we're sitting here feeling high as kites after in the last. This is our first win since November. This is our first win in the new year. So
imagine if we won a few more.
This is the tide can turn it so quickly. I think just we need to focus. We have a target of 20, 22 points. We need to get to that 38, 40 point mark.
Okay,
we can kind of feel safe again, I think.
Okay. Wow. I'm not feeling as confident as I did before the show. I wonder why. I've got I'm the glass half full guy, but Alec, you're pretty confident as well. But what's good about this and is having both you guys on. Like I said, I'm the old guy, but you guys really give some good comments and some really great analysis. I really appreciate you guys doing the show. Before we go, final thoughts from both of you, and then we'll wrap it up. First, Alec, to you, final thoughts.
Good win, solid finishing, solid at the back. Let's keep it going.
Okay. Max, final thoughts from you.
Yeah, echo everything what Alex said. It's great to be in a show after a win. It's just been so long, right? And it really gets you down as a fan, doing loss after draw after loss. So I think the whole community just was delighted. We needed this for all of our sanity, all of our positivity. And listen, we have another match in 2 days. That's a glorious thing about Premier League football is that
crazy
coming. And I think the players would have loved to play today if they were offered to, just going off that high of getting that win. I just really hope we see the Fulham we know that we can be on Wednesday night. I hope we don't see the shell of the side. It's a big match. Let's be heroes. Let's get the squad to play up to their potential, and then who knows what can happen.
Okay, it's funny while you guys are talking about this, I'm just thinking about. Had a conversation with my wife before we started the show. She says to me, "It's like, how many shows are you doing this week? Like what's up with you? It's like, do they have a match every day? Like, what's going on?" Because it certainly feels like that because of again, partially because of the pandemic. The matches are coming very quickly, and hey, people want to hear talk about Fulham, which is great, and it's even better when we can do it after a victory. Then I could do 2 shows after a victory. It's great. And then I can finish the show with you guys and go on Peacock, Max, and watch it back again because that'll make me happy. That'll make me happy watching this again. All right. Well, it's been a great show, but it is time to wrap this up. For Alec Coben and Max Cohen, CNC Fulham Factory. Yes, I went with it, Max. I'm Russ Goldman. Thank you as always for watching and listening to Cottage Talk.